All right. Great. With the 1996 Heisman Trophy winner and national champion, Danny Wuerffel. Danny, thank you so much for being on Coach's Corner podcast. I've been looking forward to this for many years. Before we talk Heisman and Desire Street Ministries, let's go back to your youth and talk about mom and dad and your siblings.
Yeah, well, I think as I grow older, I grow more grateful for my family of origin. There's no perfect family on this world, but I was really blessed to have two wonderful parents. My dad, for most of my childhood, was an Air Force chaplain. So we moved all over the country and all over the world, Paul. You know, uh, he was serving as a pastor at Jehovah Lutheran Church there in Pensacola when I was born. So I was
Oh
actually
my
born
gosh.
in Pensacola at Sacred Heart Hospital, and began my life there as a young kid, and then we moved all over.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I do. I have an older sister who lives in St. Petersburg, Florida, and then I've got a
Mhm.
brother who lives in Jacksonville, and they each have three kids, as do I. And just really, really blessed. Our family gets together as much as we can, and we don't take that for granted that we all get along for the most part and love and care for each other.
All right, let's go back to your high school years, Fort Walton Beach High. Talk about your teammates and your coaches. I know Jacques Green, your teammate, also went to Florida with you, but talk about your high school years.
Yeah, we had some incredible times in high school. We had a new coach move in my junior year, Jimmy Ray Stevens, and that was a
Mhm.
huge change of trajectory for Fort Walton Beach Vikings and for Danny Wuerffel. We went 8-2 my junior year, and then my senior year, we went 14-0. We won the state title. We won it at the University of Florida. And then, of course, actually, it was E.G. Green who was my receiver at
E.G.
Fort
Green,
Walton,
that's right.
and then he went to Florida State, so we ended up being a bit of rivals. But man, just a wonderful high school experience in so many ways, and to cap it off with the state championship at Florida Field couldn't have been any better.
My gosh, you were National Player of the Year and valedictorian at your high school. Where did you get the work ethic and the means? I guess your mom and dad had everything to do with it, but your teachers as well. Boy, that's a lot to handle, the player of the year and the valedictorian. I guess when you talk about the discipline it has to be a great teammate and to get straight A's.
Well, I would love to share that I had some special secret or something that's unique, amazing about me. But I really, even again, as I get older, first you mentioned it, the people that were around me, my parents, the things that they instilled and encouraged in me, the way that I was able to be blessed to be around great, great coaches. I mean, if it wasn't for Jimmy Ray Stevens moving to our school, we're probably not talking now. I probably don't go to Florida and win the Heisman. So those things, and then even more so, when you think about like what it takes to be a really good quarterback. I didn't like work hard to be 6'2". God blessed me with that height. Hand-eye coordination is often just something that God gives to some and not others. The way
Mhm.
and the speed in which our brains work, we can work on those things, but so many of the things that sort of led me to be successful, more and more I'm recognizing were really gifts that I'm grateful for. And I just try to steward those in a way that hopefully don't just benefit me, but that through those can benefit others as well.
You're a man of others, Danny. We'll get in and talk about the Werfel Trophy in a second, but Coach David Wilson's a good friend of mine. And he told me a story when you're in high school. I think he had you sign a contract to marry his daughter, Holly, one day. Talk about that. Talk about
No,
that story.
yeah, I think that my wife doesn't know that story, so we probably shouldn't talk about it. But hopefully, some way there was a loophole out of that for both her and for me. But what a great coach he was. He was very instrumental in our high school team doing well too, coming over and creating a fantastic defense, and of course, a great family. And I'm sure Holly is doing well, and I pray and trust she's doing fine.
She's doing great. Thanks, Danny. It's so funny story. Tell our listeners, our audience, a little bit about you that maybe people don't know. Like you play the piano and sing.
My family's very musical, and I've always just played the piano and enjoyed that and loved that. I strum at the guitar, play the harmonica. I played the trumpet when I was younger. That doesn't sound as good anymore. But one of my favorite moments that people don't know at Florida Field in the swamp in Gainesville was not playing football. The Gators host every year. They have what they call the largest student-run pep rally of the year. It's called Gator Growl, and they used to fill up the stadium. It was so popular, and they'd bring in these famous actors and comedians and musicians. Well, one of my favorite songs is one of the old comedians from Saturday Night Live is named Dana Carvey. And in his stand-up bit, he did something where he would play the piano and he made up a song called Choppin' Broccoli. And I love playing that song. And Dana was the headline comedian one year. So I was there and I actually recreated the song, rewrote the lyrics to introduce Urban Meyer, and sang this silly song in front of 50, 60,000 people. And that was really fun.
Oh, no wonder they're endeared to you. My mom and dad believed in a well-balanced individual. I sang in the choir in high school. I was the only jock that did. But all my brothers were singers or musicians as well. And it was important to my parents that the person was well-balanced as well. And it sounds like your family is the same way.
Yeah.
High school training camp. You got the boys around, and you played the piano, and they all sang. You got them to sing. Was it "Lean on Me"? Was that the song, or do you
Man,
remember
you do
that?
know you know a little too much about me, Paul. But yeah, we would sing "Lean on Me" and try to create some bonds. We sang it
Yeah.
at camp, and then we sang it at a pep rally, and just anything when you're with a group of people, when they come together and care for one another and have shared experiences, it's amazing what people can
Hmm.
do. And honestly, us winning that state championship football game, we played against the team that probably by now overall has won 20 or 30 state championships. It's a powerhouse in Fort Lauderdale. And man for man, they were better than us without question. But we had some
Hmm.
special sauce that I think part of it was the bonds that we created that helped us win that game.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. First Gators' first national title. Did you keep a journal? I tell people, I tell the players that I coached in high school when they go off to college. I just gave them one piece of advice: keep a journal, because when you get as old as me, you'll forget everything. Your kids and grandkids will love it. I don't call it, they used to call it a diary. Remember everybody reading the Diary of Anne Frank? But when I was a coach, I wished I'd have kept the diary of my playing days in high school, in college, and pros. But I did a little something for my players, and I believe coaches should do little things for their players. A couple of years at Tate in Pensacola Catholic, I kept a diary during the season every week, and I kept the newspaper articles, and I gave it to the seniors, at the banquet. My gosh, you know, do you keep a journal, or do you advise young athletes to do so?
Man, well, that's a fantastic idea. I did not when I was younger. At different points in my life, I've done a tremendous amount of journaling. Less ideas for others, but more just a space for me to kind of process my thoughts and feelings more so, which
Hmm.
has been tremendously helpful. But yeah, when we do invest and mentor other people, that is something that I bring up a lot. That part of their own personal development, part of their own growing in self awareness, journaling can be an incredible practice to incorporate.
All right, I'm sure our listeners want to know a little bit about Coach Spurrier. Tell us a story about his revolutionary fun and gun. Tell us a funny story. I know he's a super competitor, and just talk a little bit about your old coach, a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, well, I just saw him a few days ago. He had a road named after him in Gainesville near his restaurant, and we had a wonderful evening together. And playing for him, certainly affected the trajectory of my life. I'm certain I don't win a Heisman Trophy winner were I not playing for him as my coach and the
Mhm.
way that worked. One fun story that I'll never forget was very early in my career. I think I was a freshman and I threw an interception, but I really, at least in my opinion, felt like the receiver ran the wrong route. So I felt like it wasn't my fault, but you always had to worry because somebody was going to get in trouble. So I got to the sideline and I was very nervous about what Coach Spurrier would say about this interception. And so at first I was relieved because he said, Danny, don't worry, it's not your fault. So I felt good. And then he said, it's my own fault for putting you in the game. You're out.
Oh my gosh. That's that sounds something exactly like Coach Bryant would say. Yeah, that's exactly. I can hear almost those words coming out of his mouth because he would say things like that. Um, as great as your accomplishments are on the field, off the field leaves more of a meaningful and impactful legacy. Talk about your Desire Street Ministries, how you started it, and how you maintain it.
Well, like in many a quarterback fashion, I often get more credit than deserved. And Desire Street was started before I even moved to New Orleans. It was started on Desire Street in the Ninth Ward of New Orleans, and what was on and off rated the worst neighborhood in the country. And I got there in '97. I was drafted by the Saints and just started volunteering at this small, amazing little organization in a really tough spot. Fell in love with the people, fell in love with the mission, and retired in 2004 from professional football so I could work full time at Desire Street, and was just really,
Mhm.
really encouraged and amazed at what we were doing. After school program, we had started a school, we had started a church, and also the idea that that type of organization could be in other neighborhoods all around the city or the states or the
Mhm.
country. So after Katrina, I actually became the executive director, and we rebuilt and relaunched all the ministries in New Orleans. But then we moved to Atlanta, and we've expanded our sphere. And now what we do is we find leaders that live in and serve in really difficult places that are usually burning out within 3 to 5 years. And we'll partner with them for 5 years to develop thriving and sustainable leaders and ministries. And we're all over the
Mhm.
Southeast right now. In fact, we're in the middle of a 5 year plan to develop 20 thriving and sustainable ministries. And it's been incredibly invigorating. It feels great to have a sense of purpose. It's also
Mhm.
heartbreaking to see the constant struggles and tragedies of people, and to walk with them through that is not easy, but it's been an incredible journey.
Danny, college football's premier award for community service. Why was the Wuerffel Trophy created? There was a void, and I am reading from uh, website, but Mike Bianca, the Orlando Sentinel, put it best when he said the Trophy, it's about time. It's an award. There's an award for the best quarterback, running back, but why not the best human being? And you embody those three categories, Danny: academics, athletics, community service. The Wuerffel Trophy is a major college football award that is just emphasis on community service. And Danny, in my opinion, this is the most important award that exists. All the other awards are for what you do, but the Wuerffel Award is for what you are, what you stand for, a man for others, others centered. How did you get this ability for empathy?
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting. Years ago, a group from Fort Walton, the All Sports Association, presented the idea of another college football award, and my first reaction was, the last thing the world needs is another college football award. But they're like, no, this is different. This is about community service. And so I really took that to heart. And actually, it was the former director of the Heisman Trophy, Rudy Riska, who really convinced me and said, Danny, the world needs a trophy like this. And if you get behind it, it could really inspire a lot of people. And, my overarching kind of mission.
Something happened, honey. It went off.
I can see you now. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah, you're back on, Danny.
All right. You want me to
Back
just
on.
start back over on that one?
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
just the last 10 seconds, 15
Yeah,
seconds.
yeah. So Rudy Riska, really the former director of the Heisman Trophy, encouraged me to do that. And so it's been almost 20 years now. We started this award. We've got so many amazing young men that have won, but even more encouraging to me is each year we have about 100 nominees that are getting honored by being a nominee, and the semifinalists and the
Hmm.
finalists. And you know, we live in a world where for you to, as a college athlete, to be in the news, you either are like the best player on the best team or you did something really bad. And
Hmm.
so this is a way to shine the spotlight on people that are doing great work. We have a great selection committee, and I'm not the only one picking the award because this past year our winner was Dylan Gibbons from Florida State. So we're trying to be
Right.
equitable and fair. He's a well-deserving young man, and we're just really excited about him, about the trophy, and the future.
Well, I was going to wear my Alabama shirt, but I didn't want to do that to you. But I see your Gator shirt on. I've been lucky to interview a few of the past Warfel winners. And Teton Saltez really was impressive to me for the things that he does back on his reservation. Talk a little bit about Teton, how he's doing.
Yeah, Teton grew up on Pine Ridge Reservation. His Native American family, and when you look at a lot of the different parts of our country and history, some of it's beautiful and amazing, and we live in like the coolest, best country ever. But there's like any story, there's some dark chapters to it, and it's been a really
Right.
tough road for a lot of the Native Americans and some of the struggles that their communities are having. And Teton and his family have done heroic work. In fact, the day before he came to accept the Wuerffel Trophy, they were driving and they saw a house on fire. And I'm not kidding; it's like out of a movie. Teton goes into the house, finds somebody that's alive, and pulls him out of the house and saves
Oh
this
my
guy's life.
gosh.
And he burns his hands doing this. And that was just another day serving their community. They run the suicide prevention hotline. They work with
Hmm.
kids on education and mental health. They're just doing so many great things. And Teton is now playing in the XFL. He made another roster this year, and
Oh,
uh,
good.
and then when he's not still playing pro football, he's working to make the world better.
Yes, yes, he is. I've been lucky enough and blessed to coach for 20 years, but I was really lucky to play for Coach George O'Leary and Bear Bryant. I learned so much about them too, and I like to study coaches. You coach other people, find leaders in communities. I know the great Billy Graham said, a coach has more impact on a kid's life in 1 year than normal people do in a lifetime. And I felt God had a calling for me to coach and give back to what I know, and I'm glad I responded to that. But talk a little bit about being a mentor for leaders or even children and coaches.
Well, again, we talked a lot about my story, and at every step of the road, I was blessed to have people that weren't so self-absorbed in their thing to not pay attention to me or invest in me. And
Hmm.
uh, and so you recognize that you develop when people intentionally invest in you, and whether it's me asking all my former NFL teammates who's the most significant person investment in your life, and I can't tell you how many of them said it was their high school football coach. Like apart from a family member, that was the most influential person. And
Right.
um, and so you just see that time and time again. And the reality is whatever struggle I'm going through, I tend to think I'm all alone. It's unique. No one's been through it. But the reality is, a lot of people have been through what I'm going through. And if I can have access to someone that can help me walk through it, help me process, help me think about what's going on, man, is that a different experience. And so, whether it's coaching you as a young quarterback or whether it's what we do mentoring leaders that live in under-resourced neighborhoods that are trying to figure out how are they going to serve their neighbors when three of their kids just got shot, or or whether it's helping a young athlete who's trying to start a new foundation to make the world better. If you've been there before and you're willing to take the time, it makes a huge difference.
One last question. I have a segment on my show called Sports Books Worth Reading because I love to read now that I'm a little older. And even when I coached, I was thirsty for knowledge and I liked reading books about famous coaches. And it didn't matter what sport it was. I'm a sports nut. Bobby Bowden's The Wisdom of Faith is a really good book, especially the chapter on patience. I have to review that once in a while. But Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrman is another wonderful other centered book. Do you have a book, sports book that's worth reading on that you've read or that you've heard of or
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Joe Ehrman. I think he's done some incredible work. And there was a book written sort of about him called Season of Life that I thought was a very,
yes,
very powerful book to read. I think
great book.
that's a great book.
It is.
And Sam Acho, a former Wuerffel Trophy winner, is releasing his second book now. So he's written two, and is just a dynamic young leader in the world, and just doing some great work as well. So
Yeah.
those are a couple that come to mind.
Oh, good. Great. Danny, thank you so much for being on Coach's Corner. It's been such a pleasure. It's been a while. I know you're a busy man, but thank you for taking the time to be on my little show. Thank you so much.
Paul, you're
God
doing
bless you.
great work. Thanks for all the people you've invested in over all the years. Thank you for the stories you're telling now. It makes a difference. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. End recording. All right. Danny's out. Danny. All right. End recording. What do I do now? I've hit this already. Hit it again?
No.
Just X out of it? You're done? Wait a
No,
minute.
no,
Wait a minute.
no,
Okay. I'll let you take over. You ended recording. Maybe I hit it twice. I think you do.